Hey everybody, welcome back to Battle Ready Inc., the channel all about bringing you as much nerdy content as possible. I've decided that I have been meaning to do this for so long, and I'm finally going to do it for y'all. I'm going to give you a guide on how I score so high in Ancient Tower every time this event comes up. I know I say an event, but it's like a week and a half long thing here, but I get in the top 20, 30, pretty much every time now, and it's all because I made a recent change and it's just completely revolutionized everything I did. I know putting this information out there for others to use could hurt my chances of placing high, but you know what? I think that I'm gonna do it anyways because, you know, one, I like competition, and two, yeah, I would like to be nice and help people out. I know it hurts me, but oh well. Let's get into this. Alright, and while I put out some good info here, not all of it I necessarily follow myself. In like a couple, there's just a very select few levels where I should do something that I don't do and I could get a better score. And honestly, if I did those things, I could easily probably jump up to obviously top 10. Why I don't do them? Laziness is crazy. Laziness is a hell of a drug, let me tell you. But I'll get into those, all right? So, and what I don't do that if I did, I would place even higher. All right, so what is my overall strategy? So, the 41 through 50 is pretty self-explanatory, right? You're going to build a team all of one element for each of these floors. Whatever floor you're on, you're going to build, you know, your bonus, right? Okay. Pretty on the nose there. What I'm using here is basically just pretty standard stuff. You're going to have, you know, hedge bats are phenomenal for this type of thing. They just do colossal damage to bosses. And what I really recommend, though, is having a good damage dealer that does an AoE of 4 targets, preferably 5, though, for this. Because you're going to go into that final stage, and then you're just going to drop that big bomb, and you're going to hopefully one-shot everything. If you don't one-shot them, you can always run something like a mummy gun that maybe might finish up a tank. Say your hedge bat isn't at 610 yet. You could run something like a mummy gun to kind of mitigate that there, and that kind of helps make up for it. Also, you could have something like, you know, a 3 mana cost attacker that just does crazy damage, and that's what I do here is for this. Let me jump into another element here. It's a little bit more on the nose. There we go. So I use like Darkbane or Mini Dragon or Poseidon. I like a good AoE attacker, right? That works really well. As well as some sort of mana regeneration, because I like to drop the AoE attacker on like the second stage, because that's usually when my cooldown is open. Drop that and then maybe trigger something like a Cupid Dragon or a Lamgon, something that's going to give you double mana regeneration, that's going to fill your bar back up, so that way when you go into that third stage and you fight the bosses, you can drop some sort of big 5-target attack and hit all of the bosses that spawn, you know, in a circle or whatever. It gets really tricky when it's a line attack. I really like just the ones that start in the middle and, you know, they go outward. Like, I mean, you can kind of finagle a hedge bat because they've got awkward angles, but something that just really has a nice target, so that way you can make sure that you hit all the bosses. That's why I said 5 target attackers, just because you can get a little bit kind of reckless with it, and you can take out a minion as well, or a minion might be in your way and you have to hit them, something like that. And that's kind of my general strategy. Just stage 2, a big AoE attacker, something that'll generate you some sort of mana, either when you use a drag skill, or maybe it just triggers like, you know, mana. Lots of things out there that do it. a lot of your supports, Ilon, Frosty, all those kind of dragons that, you know, just after a certain period of time you get free mana, something like that, and then just really just supports, something that's gonna just beef up your damage or lower the enemy's defenses, something like that. I prefer the damage beef up kind of scenario. If you're kind of still a little bit newer, you might, you know, run a healer that gives you some attack buff, something like that. And I use that general strategy for all these last 10 floors, okay? Just AoE and then a big target attacker. The exception is, unfortunately, on my... wow, it will not do it. My light one here is I have to use single target attackers because I don't have any good AoE attackers I can use. I drop a mini dragon in here to clear stage 2 for the big AoE, and then what I have to run is these guys here, single target attackers, but I kind of try to help mitigate it by running a light alien, and light alien drops my cooldowns so I can use them multiple times. Light stage is probably one of my weakest out of the top 10, just because I don't have a nice big AoE attacker that can just take out the whole enemy in one go. So I kind of had to mitigate that just a little bit there. But the main strategy, right? How do I clear all these other 40 floors? And this is where you're really going to start to see a big shine of properly built teams that can just melt these. So my best score there, you know, 3,557. You know, super fast. It's remarkable how fast I can get these done in, you know, 5-6 seconds. It's crazy. And you're like, how do you get through 5 seconds with like the load screens and everything like that? So I don't try to rely on any kind of drag skill, right? If I have to use a drag skill, that means my cooldowns have gone all the way to 0, or my mana has built up so much that I have enough mana for a drag skill. I want to finish these stages before I can even activate a drag skill. Yeah, that's how fast I want to do these. So what do, right? I want a really good leadership dragon that's going to give me some crazy good buffs of some type. Tamer, of course, you're going to probably want the critical rate more often than not. Earth allies' critical damage is increased by 48%, so something that can crit would probably be pretty good. I could also take this out and just plop in something like a Urian, you know, just a blanket attack increase, right? Super simple. So something like that for a leader. And then the rest of it, this is where it really matters. You're going to be running stuff that do big AoEs, and they just do it constantly. So I love Volt, right? So we've got the Water Volt, Earth, there he is. All right, so I use the 2 Volts, right? Why do I use these guys? Well, let's take a look. Let's look at their skills. I've covered them in the past, and I've mentioned them, but what exactly is it? Remember, it's not about the drag skill. We're not doing this for the drag skill. You can see that both of these are pretty different. They're 3 mana costs, so it takes a long time to get that kind of mana and that cooldown to be able to even use these skills. Nope, we're not here for that. This right here, target count of 7. Perfect. Cooldown, 4 seconds. This skill triggers every 4 seconds. So let's talk about being fast and clearing out these waves. I mean, you got, you know, like 7, 8, 9 enemies on screen at one time. That's why I run 2 of these guys, is to help cover, make sure I've got all targets being hit by the target count of 7 here. And every set duration, inflict damage to a random enemy. Inflict 2 times damage to enemies above 80% of their HP. This attack is activated when a battle starts. So you go to that first wave. As soon as the battle starts, both of these Volts immediately trigger their skills to do the Wild Fang, and it just shoots out a bunch of fangs that hit all the enemies, and all the enemies are going to be above 80%. 1, because the battle just started. 2, you probably just entered a new wave, and so this it triggers every 4 seconds. You're going to immediately go off with this skill, and the new wave's already at 80% also, so that skill goes off again, clearing the second wave, and then boom, you're in the final wave. And kind of the same thing, what I was talking about earlier is sometimes you can get it before you can use any drag skill. Sometimes you can't. That's just how it goes. What I like to do is, instead of the Urian, I just run this guy here because he does a nice big AoE. He is a 3 mana cost, so I have to wait till that 3 mana cost is all the way up, which in like the first 10 levels, I never even get to use his drag skill. That's how fast that the rest of my team clears out all the the whole dungeon. Like even their passive skills kill the bosses, because the bosses are so weak in those first 10 floors that literally their little weak AoE kills those as well. So not necessarily needed in the first 10 floors. You can also check out what the element advantage is. So fire has the advantage here. I know that I'm only going to be fighting one boss, so I could drop in like a Mummigon, right? If I didn't want to run him as my leader, I can drop in a Mummigon to make sure that I kill the boss. Just depending on where you're at in the game, that'll kind of determine which one you should go with, the leadership or maybe the attacker there. You also notice I'm not running a tank, because you can kill these pretty fast. I know I'm running like super maxed out dragons here, but after a little bit of time, you'll be able to do this. Again, running 2 volts, you may run a third one, or the other option is, what I personally do is, to make this even faster, is I also add in mud dragons. So I run 2 mud dragons, and these essentially are kind of the same thing that the volts are doing, but they're doing it a little bit different. Every set duration, inflict damage to a random enemy. This attack is activated when a battle starts. So right there, same kind of premise. Yeah, it's just really awesome. And so this is what's really awesome about this, is when an enemy dies, launching mud is activated, which is what this is. So every time an enemy dies, this triggers, right? It does have a cooldown of 10 seconds, but you can lower that down to every 5 seconds. And so the enemy dies, and it reactivates this skill, and you can do it again. Target count of 4. So essentially, you can hit about 8 enemies with this drag skill. So I really like running this kind of setup here. There is something you could try out, which is not this one here, but the Dark Volt, which is why I have a Dark Volt built up also. Target count of 7, but his thing is every 3 attacks he triggers this, and so you make him super fast with attack speed up. So you can trigger this skill really quickly because he's doing his basics really fast. But what I like about the fact that you do it this way is it offsets. So unlike these other 2, which are both triggering every 4 seconds, no matter what, he might be every 3 seconds or every 5 seconds. So the other ones are going to go off. Boom, we cleared the first wave. We go into the second wave, right? And then Dark Volt's going to be on a different time clock than the other ones. So say that AoE didn't kill him, there might be something left. Dark Volt can go and clean them up with his AoE right after them, just keeping it kind of offset. That's also why I like the Mud Dragons, just because with their auto reset on their skill here, where they get activated a second time just when an enemy dies, it just kind of helps keep them offset from each other just enough that they're not always activating at the same time. And so that's why I like to run all 4 of these. So they're all essentially doing the same thing. That passive wins me the entire first 40 floors. Yeah, just these passives alone. And then I like to have one AoE attacker, right? Just you can run something that's a 3 mana cost attacker, or you can run something like a hedge bat, and then swap your hedge bats around depending on the element. Or, you know, if you just want to run the hedge bat just because does crazy damage. All the bosses that you swing it against do 2.5 damage. So you can run a hedge bat instead. You're going to lose out on that leadership buff, but hey, it might be worth it for you. All right, just depending on what you have available. And this is my setup, and I clear everything. Now, where this setup kind of lacks, just for getting like super perfect high scores, it still works. The problem is the dragons that you face. And there we go. There was one. Psyker Dragon is in this one. And the light Psyker Dragon, once it gets down to 20% health, it puts up a barrier, an invulnerability barrier. You can't do any damage to it. So you could run something that would clear the barrier. All right. Also, like buff removal works. So anything that's just going to take a buff off, or anything that clears barriers, you can run all of that kind of stuff here. And do I have it still, or did I delete it? I might have deleted it. Yeah, I used to have the Dark Gaudium, and you could drop the Dark Gaudium because you can aim his skill. He's a 2-mana cost attacker. You know, clearing those kind of buffs, that sort of thing. Really anything that's going to clear any sort of buffs. I think, does Cupid here? Oh, he removes immune effects before casting. Every set duration and inflict damage to a random enemy. Each bullet has a 40% chance to remove one beneficial effect from the target. So you can maybe run that. There's just loads of different dragons that that can clear these types of fields here. Anything that's going to silence is always good. Every set duration, 80% chance to silence an enemy for 7 seconds, so then they can never put up the invulnerability barrier. Let's see, Gaian, I think his drag skill here. Yeah, 60% chance to silence targets for 5 seconds. So you drop this as soon as you go into that third stage, hit the boss, silence the boss, and then your the rest of your team here, they just go in and then delete the boss. You can really apply that strategy across the board on all these situations I'm gonna just bring up. So Psyker Dragon, he's one of the really bad ones. Let's see. There's also fire. Okay, here's this one here. Dark Gaudium has zombie state. So again, if you want to remove the buff of zombie state, he dies instantly. Or if you want to silence him before you kill him, he never goes into zombie state at all. So again, you can apply these same concepts to all these situations. Essentially, the barriers, the zombie states. And then Fire Sura. But yeah, so Fire Sura, he puts an invulnerability barrier up. So you've got to be able to handle him. Again, if you just silence these guys before you hit him, and I believe he's even in a fight that has, what's his name? Fire Teddy. And Fire Teddy has a Resurrect. If you hit both of the Sura, the Fire Sura and the Teddy, then you're good. You don't have to worry about them at all. And I cannot find that stage. There it is. So yeah, there's Sir Dragon and Teddy. Hit them both with like a silence beforehand, and then you kill them. You don't have to worry about the barrier. You don't have to worry about the revive. You also don't have to worry about Teddy healing if you just can't kill him fast enough. These strategies just they work for all of this. So I really hope that you'll be able to apply this to these concepts and then be able to do it. And I'll go into that first stage and just kind of show you as an example of how fast it can go. All right, so this is my team here. So we just start the battle. I've got my tamer set. You know, crit rate might not even be needed. Again, you could just maybe go with a blanket attack buff, but I'm going to go ahead and apply this so that way they all get the attack buff. Look at that. Boom. Dead. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Then boom. Mud Dragons. There the Mud Dragons go. Awesome. There we go. Into the third stage. All right. All right. Fire off again. Dead. Look at that. None of my cooldowns are up. I can't even activate a skill. The match is over in no time. And that's just how I cleared the whole bit there. Look, I still didn't even break my record. That was 6 seconds. The fastest I've ever done it was 5 seconds. Yeah, just absolutely absurd. And you can just literally clear the whole tower using that concept. Again, if you want to get higher scores, though, make sure you're using your proper elements, like we discussed in the beginning. And then for the other floors that give you issues, like, this one's the Fire Sir is on floor 38. Make sure you use something that can silence him or something that can get rid of barriers, that sort of thing. And you'll get an even higher score than me. If I put in the effort of actually just swapping out my big DPS dragon for something else, then I could clear even faster. But I'm lazy. So, no, it is what it is. I'm comfortable with 19th place. You know, the rewards are just outstanding. It's not like if I go any higher, I'm gonna get, you know, just crazy bigger rewards. I mean, they're nicer, sure, but this amount of rewards is good enough for me. You know, 500 roughly wings. This is enough wings for me to be able to purchase all the eggs that come in the shop. Every time they show up, I can purchase them, and then by the time this event ends again, you know, in another week and a half, I can restock my 500 wings, and boom, I'm ready to go. Like right now, this event ends in 1 hour, and I'm curious, what are my wings at in the shop right now since the last event? And like I said, I buy every egg that comes through here. Look, I'm at 89. I still got wings left over, so I'm happy where I'm at. Could I strive for more? Sure, but if you guys start beating me and knocking me down a peg, then yeah, I guess I'll have to try a little harder. So, oh man, shucks, I'm giving myself motivation to do better. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please support the channel in any way you can. Just liking the video or subscribing is a huge help. And if you really want to support the channel, consider checking out my Patreon. There's a link in the description below for it. You can get access to my Discord server as well as some other cool incentives. Also, check out my official merch store. There's a link in the description below for my Teespring account. You get access to all my cool merch that I've got on there, as well as some other cool stuff, cool phone cases, that sort of thing. But like I said, any kind of support is always appreciated. Just simply liking the video can go a very long way for me. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.